Okay, I think as we've got some introductions, we'll get started. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on CSPs, Operations of the Future, the new service management for telco. Joining me today, I'm very pleasured to have three presenters. So we have Sarah Copo, Kapil Dingor and Phil Brooks. They will do their formal introductions as we get through the slides in the session today. But before we get started, just a couple of reminders. If you have any questions during the session, please use the Q&A section of Zoom, which you will find at the bottom. We will try to answer the questions as we go along, but we will have roughly 15 or so minutes at the end where we will take your questions live. Until that time, for recording purposes, you will remain muted. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to get us started. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sam. So yeah, as Sam said, I'm Sarah Copo, and I'm part of the telco lead in BMC. I've been working in telco for 25 years, and still working in telco, as you will see, in the rest of this presentation. Today, these are the points that we are going to be to discuss. So yeah. This webinar is slightly different from all the other webinars. I mean, this is not only about a solution, but it's also about the story behind the solution, a story that has led BMC to become an active player in the telco vertical, with the solutions that are the results of a strategy, of a vision that BMC has developed for the telco vertical. The solution that we will be talking today is called, it's in the service management, is a service management component. While talking about the strategy, though, I will be, taking a bit of a higher view, talking about what I call the big picture, what we call service ops. There will be obviously like a more telco-specific webinar where we will show more in details, all the different solutions which we have got, which we have developed for telcos. As I said, BMC's story is mainly a story in IT. But how did BMC have evolved from being a horizontal IT software company to a company with expertise in the telecom vertical? So this is what we're gonna talk about in the next few minutes. The story of BMC started around 1980. Of course, I'm just going to be focusing on the most recent here, when BMC started having more active engagement with the telecom companies. So around 2000, we bought Remedy, and Remedy was a very popular tool used in service management within many telcos. We probably have got around 200 telcos using our Remedy. But if we look at the telco story, they had a very long history too, much longer. But if I think about the modern era, what I call the modern era of telco is started around 1990 with GSM. I remember I started working in 1995, July 14, which is an important date if we've got French people in the audience. And I started working with Telecom Italia Mobile, which was basically a new company result of coming out of Telecom Italia. And the reason why Telecom Italia Mobile was formed is because they wanted to create a new company with a new way of thinking, because they thought this is a new era in the digital scenario. So then we saw 2001, I saw 3G coming, and then 4G in 2009. And then something important happened around 2015 with the software-defined network. So I'm talking about the decoupling, as you are well aware, of functions of the network from the underlying hardware. And also, the start of the virtualization of the network. So now let's put together the two stories. Remedy has been very successful for its ability to in workflow automation. So much we said that it was a very popular tool used in service management in almost 200 customers. And yeah, one of the features of Remedy was the ability to customize workflows. Those are the little bricks that I put on the block called Remedy. And what many of these telcos did was to customize these additional workflows on top of the Remedy to be able to use the tool in a NOC type of environment, in a network operations type of environment. So I just want to use an example. A customer, which was actually a previous employer of mine, they had like two instances of Remedy. One for IT, used for internal and what we call external IT, and one for the network. The IT one, they basically used it without any change. But on the network one, they put so many customizations, they built so many customizations. They had around about 2,000 forms which they built on the Remedy, to the point that they started calling it Frankenstein. So this is now we are migrating it to BMC Helix, and we kind of like refer to that as the Frankenstein. So in 2015, when this virtualization era with telco cloud, where cloud came up, BMC fully embraced cloud. And we started the platform refresh that brought to the launch of BMC Helix around about 2019. And this is also the year when BMC started embedding AI in their solutions, so a complete embracing of this new era, cloud and AI and so on, and also working not only on the service management side, but also on the operation management side. So what is interesting to see that cloud basically happened for both BMC or also for everybody, so for BMC and also for telcos. So, but while BMC's adoption was very quick, in telcos, this adoption we have seen it has been slower because of several aspects. Like as an example, sovereignty, regulation, latency, 5 nines, availability, and so on. But nevertheless, telco started to consider migrating to cloud. So going back to the BMC platform, this is meant to be a single platform that unifies the service and operation management with AI-driven automation and cloud-native flexibility. As I said, today is about the service management component, but again, it's important for me to talk about this overall platform so that you can see that also in the context of our strategy. And going back to the service management platform, I also think is important to repeat that what we have done is really to create a tool that it's appropriate for the requirements not only of internal and external IT, but also for network operations. Mindful of the fact that CSPs, they not only have internal, external IT, but they've got a geographically distributed network over the majority of the complexity for the operations resides. So for BMC, now looking at these bricks here, so for BMC to understand those bricks and how we could design and implement a truly telecom-specific service management system, we really had to understand the telco industry. So it's just to understand, okay, well, what are the customizations that they built, but why they built those customizations. Okay, so from around 2019, BMC started to work with our customers, CSP customers, to focus on the industry and to commit and invest in this vertical. We also became TM Forum members. I'm sure that you are aware of this organization called the TM Forum. We engaged in co-design partnership with large CSPs to understand the dynamic of the vertical, what were the challenges in both IT and network operations, and how we could help CSPs to overcome those challenges. So BMC basically started shaping what we call CSP strategy for telcos. As I said earlier, this is an overall strategy. It's about the big picture, the picture related to what I call service assurance stack, which include both operation management and service management. And again, today we'll talk more about service management. So the challenges for the audience who works with telco, they are very well known. This is just a slide, to summarize the main ones, which talking to all the customers, the CSPs customers they've got, it seems they are pretty much common in all the geographies with some minor differences. So just quickly, the customer expectations, they've been redefined by hyperscalers and by the fact that customers are much more sophisticated and demanding. The other day, my kids were trying to watch a movie on Netflix, and it was taking a bit longer to get the movie to start, and they got upset, saying, well, this is lagging and so on. Well, my point is that it took them 15 minutes to choose the movie, which I think is unfair for the communication service providers from whom we are buying broadband services. Commoditization of connectivity services, so competition from traditional and non-traditional players. And then also, this with 5G, the network is really an expensive resource. One of the points that we have been talking about in telco since the incoming of 5G is monetizing 5G. 5G is an expensive investment. Rolling out 5G is expensive. It will be, for the subsequent rollout. And not only that, these networks, they need to be resilient, redundant, because they are supporting mission critical services. Literally, people can die if the network does not work as it should, is not available. So if we look at how CSPs respond to those challenges, and I'm looking now at the right-hand side of the slide, they are looking at transforming customer experience, providing a frictionless delivery of services. And this is focusing on the self-serving new product and services, self-fulfillment of changes or requests, and self-assurance of delivered services. They're also leaning towards autonomous. Autonomous, it's like 5G monetization. Why some of those words or those topics, they carry on coming up. And I'd say autonomous, yes, but it's like intelligently and providing services-centric operations, because clearly, with the centricity of the customer is consuming a service. So we are really moving from operation and service management centered around infrastructure, around platform, to them being centered around the customers. And these transformational trends are focused digitizing the businesses of CSPs. The shift from telco to telco, as you well know, making customers happy and provide a differentiation and reducing, of course, operation costs. So as we find common challenges, we also got like a commonality in CSPs on the strategic objectives. Cost effectiveness, network, as we said, they are expensive. I was in 70% of the investment of CSPs, they go into network. Last one, operational excellence with fierce competition. Price is not an option anymore. So basically, the only competitive advantage is customer experience. And the one in the middle, autonomous. We mentioned earlier autonomous operation. I'm talking about intelligent autonomy, and I'm also referring to the autonomous network framework. This level 4 is referred to the autonomous network framework established by TM Forum. So each component of our BMC Helix platform and all the capabilities that we offer, they are aligned to these objectives. So every time that we look at our solution, design a new solution, we make sure that we look at the challenges, we look at the objectives, and we make sure that we address them. So we align the strategy and the vision to the strategy of CSPs. Then I was actually listening to a TM4 webinar a few days ago, and I think that they came up with a really good tagline that was actually about agentech, and the tagline is about these objectives being summarized in this like 3 points. So simplify, reducing the number of tools, convergence, automate, which we have discussed, and modernized. I remember around 2022, we were at Mobile World Congress, we were giving a presentation, and I did some research for that presentation. And there was we mentioned a survey that was done by Nokia to 98 CSPs who were asked, do you think that your BSS OSS stack are good enough to embark in your digital transformation? And the majority, it was probably 85% of them, they said, no, this is not the case. Similar survey, telecom.com, August last year, the title was telco leaders may be ill prepared for changes coming down the road. So it looks like there is a general consensus of CSPs about the need to modernize. That's on the fact that autonomous operations require a new approach and enhanced capability to deliver against those objectives. So now if we look at these are on the right, on the left hand side, basically the foundation of our vision. We talk about service observability, the fact that activity needs to shift from reactive to predictive. Instead of waiting until it breaks, predict it, so fix it before any disruption occurs. When disruption happens, the resolution should be fully automated. And also, on the change approach, they need to move away from that and try to realize value from the elastic, cloud native, and software defined technology. Now, if we look at the curve, we spoke about CSPs transitioning and moving to digital service providers. What we find at the moment is that we've got that many CSPs with whom we talk to, they've got operations that are built around the reactive and which is like technology focused approaches. And this cannot deliver the efficiency which is needed. So many CSPs have started moving towards service operations with a greater level of proactive response. Okay, but new and updated foundational technologies are required to go even more up this curve. Now, what are we going to be doing today? Because we focus on service management, we will always be focusing on the first part of this journey. Okay, we will see, that what we have started doing is also embedding AI and Gen AI capabilities, helping to move up this curve. And also, I think what I've done here is also kind of like a plotting this curve, including the level of the TM Forum autonomous network. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about, as I said, the beginning of this journey, and then, as I said, we will have like a separate, different webinars where we will address also the operation management side. Now, I mentioned earlier BMC Helix. Okay, so this is the whole platform that shows the AirOps component, the operation management component, which is not the main topic today, and then the service management part. All this, it's there to support service assurance services. Okay, so on this side of the slide, we have got basically, the main point, why we say this BMC Helix is built for telcos. I mean, if you look, I'll just pick as an example across enterprise, its integration is very important. We find CSPs ecosystems are really very complex. So the ability to interconnect all the different systems and also provide an open platform. You see here, we can't expect that the CSPs will change their ecosystem for us. So what do? We mold our system to work in their complex ecosystem. As I said, today, the main topic is the service management component, supporting processes of incident, change, and problem management, and providing a telco grade, I like to call it, a type of service management solutions, which include those capabilities, those workflows, which are specific to the way of working within network operations. And in a glance, before giving debates to Kapil, this explains, the telco extensions in the context of our BMC Helix platform. I mean, you're probably familiar with our BMC Helix ITSM. So what we have done is basically to add what we call telco extensions, which are this additional capabilities which we have built to meet the requirement of the network operations. Some are additional workflows, but some of them are what I call, as an example, in the case of impact management, a super capability. This is actually a requirement that we see being common in many CSPs, which is the ability to upon an outage, upon an incident, to understand what is the impact of that outage, not only on the CIs, but on services. So, Kapil, I'll let
Hi.
you, okay?
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kapil Dingore. I'm the product manager for service management for Telco. I'm based in Pune, India. So just to build on top of what Sarah has already covered, I'm going to talk about of this more from a product and capabilities perspective. So service management for telco, as the slide says, is basically has two main components. First is the underlying layer, which is our Helix ITSM, right? So if you're already using Helix ITSM, I've customized a lot of things. You can still continue with that, right? And what we have really done is we have looked at what customers are mostly customizing to use telco capabilities on top of ITSM. And then we have actually gone ahead and productized those capabilities. And those capabilities is what we call telco extensions. Now, the list, which is on your right-hand side, is not an exhaustive list, but it's a list of key features which we have productized till now. Some of them are also as part of a roadmap, right? Let me take this opportunity to just walk you through some of these key features. Next slide, please. Right, we'll start with alarm management. So most of the times, your telco trouble ticketing is going to be driven using alarms. So having that integration with alarm management is very key. A lot of time, this capability gets customized. What we have done is introduce support for alarm management as part of the incident when it is created. You are able to see all related alarms to that particular incident or trouble ticket. You can mark something as primary, and when you mark something as primary, you can automatically associate the CI associated with the primary alarm with the incident. You also see related alarms, and the CIs associated with that will automatically be available under related CIs of that incident. So all this integration is baked in out of the box. You don't really have to worry about that. We also have something called splitting an incident, right? So if you have a rule like you cannot resolve the incident unless all the alarms are resolved, then you can actually split those alarm and create a separate incident of things that you can cover later. So that facility has been given out of the box as part of the alarm management. And next slide, please. Right. Then we have ticket prioritization. Even a normal ITSM ticket has prioritization, but when it comes to telco trouble ticketing, you want to take all these telco specific features like alarms or certain CI parameters to drive the priority of the incident. So what we have done is we have introduced a rule-based capability where you can define ticket prioritization based on certain rules, which take into consideration your alarms, your CI details, in addition to all other normal incident parameters, which are always been used for prioritizing that incident. Next slide, please. Right. Then we have a concept called related parties. Telco, the whole space being so broad that in addition to your NOC or the service management of a telco who's actually working on the tickets, you're going to have a lot of third parties, service providers, vendors who could be associated with resolving that incident. Now, in case you want assistance from third parties, right? A lot of time we kind of create tickets for third parties, but then if it is something as simple as, okay, show me the ticket and I can help you with that, you can actually add third parties on an incident, which gives them access, a read-only access to the incident. You can also keep them informed through notifications, right? This is completely on the purview of the NOC agent, the agent who's working on the ticket, right? So in case they really want to add someone as a third party who can get access, it's an optional feature, but available for trouble tickets. Next feature, please. Right. Next one, please. The one after this. All right. Now, in addition to what we have already seen, we are also working on introducing certain Helix GPT specific features. Helix GPT is the LLM which BMC Helix has introduced. And there are a lot of agents that we are introducing. Here we are going to talk more about the telco specific Helix GPT use cases, starting with GPT enabled change. Now, there would be multiple use cases around change management that we are going to introduce, which are driven by Helix GPT. This is more about change MOP ingestion, right? This is more about if you are creating a change MOP document, right? You will have a Helix GPT based capability where you can just ingest that document and it's going to automatically convert that into a change ticket, right? Depending, and it's completely independent of what format you're creating your MOP, method of procedure document in. It understands whatever format that you have, you ingest that, and it is going to map everything appropriately as part of the change ticket and help you completely automate that process of creating a change ticket using change MOP documents, right? Next slide, please. The next one is impact analysis. The impact analysis of feature is available in ITSM, but what we have done is taken that and added some telco specific capabilities in that, right? So you have some telco specific models like ring model or telco specific attributes that needs to be present on a CI to run that impact analysis. So this whole impact analysis capability has been now redesigned purely for telcos, right? So now you can do impact analysis for incidents. You can do rule-based impact analysis. So you want to trigger impact analysis based on a certain criteria. You have a capability to do that. Similar capability will be available for change management. And then you also have a way of simulating impact analysis with what we call what if analysis, right? So we've taken whatever impact analysis we started with ITSM, looked at whatever capabilities are required for telco, and build a very comprehensive solution around impact analysis. We have also added a Helix GPT-based summarization capability, where once you run impact analysis, basically what you get is a list of CIs as an output. Now you can actually feed that result to your LLM or your Helix GPT, and it's going to give you a nice crisp summary of what exactly is impacted, what you need to prioritize, which are the areas you need to focus on. Everything is given as, and you can look at on the slide on how the Helix GPT will provide you a summary. Again, this will depend on how you have defined your data in your CMDB, but more information available to Helix GPT, more analytics it can pull out and give it for you, right? It's just going to make it a lot easier for people in this field to make sense of what is the impact of that particular incident and quickly take next steps. All right. I think that was all from me.
Thank you, Kapil. So my name's Phil Brooks. I'm part of the BMC CSP practice. My background is probably over 20 years. So that's why I've got grey hair, but 20 years in telco, specifically actually in the BMC environment. So I can't say who's on the list here, but I think I probably visited between 50 and 100 BMC telco customers in my time around the world. So some of you might recognize me, maybe when I was a bit younger. But essentially, my role within the CSP practice is to help the enablement teams as part of the customer success organization, basically position the new telco extension capabilities, which we're now calling service management for telco. As part of that, I also get involved in some of the transformation projects, particularly at the front end, in terms of running workshops, working with clients to strategize, around how they can adopt these new capabilities as part of a transformation project. So yes, quite often roll my sleeves up and do a bit of work as well. What I want to do in this session is really just re-emphasize some of the points that Sarah made earlier on, but specifically sort of share with you why BMC telco customers are now upgrading to the latest and greatest with the new telco extensions. Of course, and also actually explain how we, BMC, and with our partners are actually starting to help or are helping our customers with that sort of transformation journey. Of course, it can be very different. The journey is obviously very different between companies, and I'll come on to some of the reasons why that is, and things that actually drive different sort of permutations of the approach. So if I just start, next slide, please. If I just start with why CSP customers upgrading. Essentially in 2025, because a lot of this is really starting to pick up momentum over the last 2 years, I'd say, 2 or 3 years. But in 2025, customers are upgrading for a number of different reasons. In the short term, it's mainly around, as some of you will be aware, for those that have got existing legacy remedy systems. In February this year, the 20.02 version of remedy went out of version support. And for a lot of customers, that's quite a big deal because that's all about exposure, security exposure, out of support, contractual obligations, regulatory contractual obligations, as well as customer obligations to maintain an up-to-date in-supported system. So we've obviously seen quite a bit of activity working with our customers leading up to February 2025, and actually still working with some customers on some of those discussions. But that's probably provided, interestingly, an impetus for customers to think about, well, I think, we all know, and as Sarah set it out here, we all know that telcos are going through huge change now under a lot of pressures, and they need to do transformational change, their operational transformational change driven by new platform capabilities. So we're finding now some quite interesting conversations with our customers whereby on one hand they have this legacy problem from end of version support, and all the other things, around a legacy system like total cost of ownership and those sorts of things. But at the same time, they know that they need to bring up to speed and enhance their service assurance platforms, the service management platforms. So this presents quite a unique opportunity at a moment in time, which actually I've been looking forward to, having been doing this for 20 odd years. Yeah, it's been quite interesting to see these two dynamics come together and actually start to mobilize a huge amount of transformational interest in our customers. In terms of the transformational side of things, some of the drivers there are just simply platform modernization around adoption of new sort of AI technologies. Some of it would be around more organizational driven, where organizations are looking to drive down operating costs by combining business units and operational units. It could be that the convergence of IT and network infrastructure starts to drive a different sort of business model around supporting that combined infrastructure. It could be that we've got examples where we've got, let's say, mergers and acquisitions, where you might have a fixed line operator and a mobile operator converge, and therefore, economies that want to be driven out of that joint venture, if you like, and we all know the examples. I won't name them, but the economies that come out of that business joint venture to merge those two types of telco actually can be achieved by converging operations. Sometimes it can be more around convergence. So it's either convergence around IT and network operations, or it might be convergence of mobile and fixed line operations in a merger. It might also be, got plenty of examples where the multinational telcos are now looking at their opcos and actually wanting to achieve, a one way of working on a standard platform on a single instance. We've got some quite interesting examples of that as well. So operational convergence, whatever that scenario is quite a big driver. And then it's around service transformation. So if we think about, we've gone through that platform modernization, we might have operational convergence type drivers. It's then about some of the things that Sarah touched on, is about service transformation, actually transforming the service, leveraging the new AI capabilities, agentic AI and Gen AI that Kapil talked about, and actually then transforming service. Ultimately, everyone talks about zero touch and autonomous operations and headless NOCs and those sorts of things. It's, in some respects, from a service management point of view, it's a little bit out there, but it's getting closer. And I think organizations realize that now they have to get off the fence, so to speak, and actually start, modernizing these platforms ready for that ultimate eventuality, which is essentially autonomous operations. So these are some of the key things that we're seeing in customers. There's a lot of these transformation projects in flight now. Some of you are on the call, I think, are involved in some of that, so you'll probably know closely what I'm talking about. But this is now what and actually we've been, in terms of going back to the product side of things, this is what we've been building up towards over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, Sarah talked about a presentation she did, and eventually went to a Mobile World Congress. Sarah, that was you and me, actually. Way back in 2022, when we set out what we thought was going to happen over the next 3 years, and hey, look, it did. Next slide, please. So in the remedy world, I mean, as Sarah said on her first slide, actually, the history of remedy in telco goes back 20 odd years into the 90s. And so some of these systems there are still humming away. Obviously, the big providers, big carriers have still got those systems. They're literally custom remedy applications. In the 2000s, you had the introduction of ITSM. So some of those ITSM systems actually found their way into running telco operations, but traditionally, or rather typically, are very customized. So that's another sort of scenario. And then, of course, you've got all the vendors as well. So when we look at all this as a telco practice within BMC, and we look at, trying to move our customers to an end state, based on Helix Service Management Telco, we obviously have slightly different approaches to these different scenarios. So with Remedy ITSM, typically on-prem, there would be a fairly straightforward pathway to Helix ITSM, and there's tooling around HTM, Helix HTM, which is the migrating tool, to actually move data and processes onto Helix ITSM. The big challenge, not challenge, but the big consideration with those types of migrations is how much of the customization of ITSM do you want to pull through? So clearly there's an opportunity there to look at the new out-of-the-box capabilities and say, well, actually, that doesn't need to be pulled through because it's actually more out of the box. Or, there's an acceptance that actually is a better way of working using these new capabilities. But that's all part of the project. With other vendors, and again, when I talk about convergence, remember what we're talking about here is opcos and different domains within a company. So it's quite often, and actually very often, that you might find remedy systems in one part of the organization, and you might find other vendor products in other parts of the organization. But ultimately, in terms of convergence, the customer just wants one platform to drive a common way of working. So again, we have to factor in that in some of these transformation projects, we have to not just migrate the remedy systems, but we have to migrate or upgrade other vendor platforms as well. Now that is, again, typically these systems like IBM and HP and ServiceNow are ITSM systems basically. So there's quite a closer correlation in terms of what the sort of from the as is to be state would be in terms of processes. Again, you can use the HTM tool in some of those situations. Probably the most challenging area is the custom remedy applications. These things have been there for 20 years, rooted in the 90s. When Remedy really was a workflow platform, and essentially, the common applications are things like trouble ticketing and change management, but also quite sort of customized or specific solutions around preventive maintenance, site management, service activation, and quite a lot of customer care type custom applications out there as well. With these implementations, then we have to take a slightly different approach, which is much more of a sort of discovery type exercise to understand what that state looks like, but then actually work with our customer and partners to basically create a pathway whereby most of it and sometimes all of it can be actually replaced with Helix ITSM and other Helix products out of the box. But whatever the starting position, as I said, we've got tools and we've developed methods and processes to actually do this migration. And BMC Helix Service Management for Telco, as I said, has actually been designed as to support this journey, if you like. So it does support convergence, it does support the combination of network and IT processes. It does have capabilities to what we call telco grade capabilities to do fault management to ticketing, alarms at scale. It does have new capabilities to ingest data from BSS, OSS properly. It has capabilities to, as Kapil set out, to model telecom services and with a new impact engine as well to do it at telco grade. So again, we've got the tools, we've got the product, we've got the approaches to support these types of migrations. In terms of our approach, this is interesting because I get involved in a lot of discussions, obviously, with customers, and there's always a starting position, which is and it depends obviously on the drivers, as I mentioned earlier. What is the sort of vision here for this sort of upgrade, if you like? Is it we've got a version support problem, let's just get onto the latest Helix Remedy platform, so it's back into support, or is it driven by a need to converge ticketing platforms, for convergence reasons, or is it because we want to transform, and all the stuff that Sarah presented in her slides, The reality is we are finding that it's actually all of those things, for most telcos at least. So the way we look at things, if what we're looking at is a journey, which might start with a migration to get back into support, but ends in a to-be state where we have done service transformation, we are leveraging all these new capabilities, then the way we look at it is to, and actually, Sarah, you used some of these terminology from your TM Forum stuff you were talking about, which is following the industry guidelines around the way to approach this is literally to think about things in terms of simplification, standardization, modernization, and automation in those things. What we do, is we look at it like that, which is fairly standard in the industry now. But from a product point of view, we group capabilities, Helix capabilities, to support those sort of, let's say, objectives, and then those objectives with those Helix groups of Helix capabilities, are then threaded in to an overall plan. But here you can see things like simplify. That's all about driving out of the box. It's about using the platform itself. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't customize. There's a lot of new capability now on that platform. That's simplification. Standardization is all about, first of all, adopting best practices. So in the case of service management for telco, we're supporting ITIL and TM Forum standards. So we're signed up to the TM Forum ODA. So the TM Forum APIs are very much part of how we're doing this, and it's also about providing extended processes and understanding why some of those remedy systems have been customized, and even the ITSM systems, why they've been customized. So it's all about standardization of process, leading practice, and it's basically following some of the sort of guidelines by TM Forum. Modernization actually is really about getting onto the latest platform and then starting to embrace these new AI type capabilities. And what's really important with this modernization bit, is that things will continue to modernize. So one of the key points here is that it's important that we say to our customers, it's important, that even when transformation is underway, they stay connected to the BMC Telco product management team, because it's fast moving. We are pulling out new ideas from being involved in these transformation projects, so they're going into a potential backlog of new releases. We know that some of these projects can take a bit of time, so it could be in a year's time. There's a whole slew of new releases and enhancements that could add a lot of benefit as we start to do transformation. In fact, Kapil is actually on various calls with some of the key customers, where he actually provides a sort of monthly cadence and provides updates to those customers about what is happening around the corner. So that's part of those transformation discussions. They can be fed into the eventual to be state. Automation is it's not an end state. Automation is something that needs to happen as soon as possible, and I'll come on to that. But it's also something that is as a separate exercise. So when you've gone through these initial phases of simplifying and standardizing and modernizing, there will be an opportunity to use some of the automation capabilities early on in the platform. But also, I think the way I see it certainly is that this is a separate stream as well, which actually is all about now we've got the modernized platform, now we've got these new capabilities. How can we drive that final bit of the curve that Sarah was talking about to autonomous service management or autonomous operations? And that's actually not just about the tooling, of course, it's all about the processes and those sorts of things. If I go to the next slide, please. This is just an example high-level plan. It's a bit project specific, but I just wanted to show it, because it shows typically what we're doing here. This is where we are, for instance, in this particular project. The first step is to retire legacy. That's to get it into support. In this particular project, there's a particular sort of drive around enhancing all the portals, using DWP and those sorts of things. A big piece of this, and it's a big piece of any of these transformation projects, and particularly with convergence, is a unified service modeling. So using the new telco extended CNDB classes to actually provide a unified service model across ITN network, for instance. And then you can see here what we do is we thread that into the I talked about the key objectives and the grouping of the capabilities. We thread that into the plan, And where we can, we would look to try and have some early wins. There's a lot of AI that is available out of the box today, and actually some of it actually is part of the telco extensions release, so actually can be mobilized for telco. Okay, next slide. Right, so I guess the next thing when I talk to customers, they say, well, okay, Phil, sounds great, really excited. Sometimes they say they're excited, okay, but they say, okay, where do we go with this then? Yeah, and essentially we recognise this a while back. So we have produced a service which we call a CSP advisory service, which sits under the BMC Customer Success umbrella. So for those organisations that have got success credits, they can use that to do this service. And essentially, this service is a fairly short piece of work. It can be longer, but typically it's a sort of 4 to 6 weeks elapsed time, with maybe a couple of weeks on site. And essentially, what we're looking to do is get in, and understand current way of working, the current sort of system estate, the BSS OSS architecture, appetite for TM4 standards, that sort of stuff. It's enough. We can do that in about 4 to 6 weeks, and it's enough to enable us to produce essentially a high-level plan and a pathway to go from legacy to out of the box. And that's used extensively. All our successful engagements to date, have involved the CSP advisory engagement. And in fact, there's been situations where, as part of transformation, we've been brought in first to do this piece of work, and actually sometimes it's been a bit enlarged, and then some of those artifacts have been used in the RFP process, to go out to market to find partners and SIs, that will take on the transformation project. But what we've done in the meantime is set the guide rails for the project. So for us, we are encouraging wherever possible, as a first step and to get started, that customers adopt the CSP advisory service. Okay. A final thought from me before we go to Q&A is that, and again, I said I've visited dozens and dozens of telcos. I'm involved in quite a few projects, and it's been interesting over the years. And this probably sums it up for me. I will tell you that this got generated by AI, so it's not. I suppose it is. I suppose it is new, but this got. I put it into Gen AI and GPT, and this is what I got, and it's actually quite right. When I look at my customers, and of course, I'd never say to my customers which one I think they are. Although we are going to have a poll about it after this slide. So get ready, Sam. But I categorize organizations as being cautious explorers, strategic navigators, or trailblazers. And I think that's absolutely right. But there's also reasons why that's the case as well. I don't think it's particularly that any organization or people in an organization are risk averse. I think there's factors that make an organization take things at slightly different paces. Again, I could put companies to these, but I won't, of course. You know who you are. But this is how we look at it. And I think my final message here is that we're here to help. I hope that's been useful, just sharing some of the experiences. And I think next step after this is contact your BC account manager. So, Sam, I know you're going to do some polling to end this, and I think we might have.
I've just launched it now, so hopefully there's a couple of questions in there, and of course there's Phil's questions, so maybe make sure you answer that one first. Why we do give an opportunity for Q&A, I'm going to start unmuting everyone. So if there is any questions, and I've noticed the Q&A is very quiet, you've obviously overwhelmed or just blown people away with all the content today. Why we unmute, I don't know, Sarah, if there's any more like final call to action or anything that you want to share, and then we'll go through with Phil and Kapil as well. And I'm just going to start unmuting people.
Yeah, well, Sam, I hope that the intention today was really to understand, to tell the audience where we are coming from. I think it's important. You've got a solution, but we are talking more than talking about solution. We want to talk about solving problems, solving challenges. So I thought that the reason why we built what we built was an important point that we wanted to make. And also, I think that this is, as I said at the beginning, is not only a new product. And I just want to make a simple example. You know, I'm Italian, okay? So in Italy, you buy a Ferrari, you just don't get the car. Well, I don't have one, you know, but you know, who can afford that? So they just don't get the car, but they also get driving lessons because to drive a Ferrari is not like driving any other car, and the same for a Lamborghini and so on. So it's really, you know, what Phil said. I think it was important because the solution is the solution, but what it is important is really how you adopt that solution, how you get out of that solution as much benefit as possible. And this is and how we take you up that curve. I think that this is what I hope it was clear by the discussion that we had.
Thank you, Sarah. And is there anything, Phil, just on the CSP that you want to reiterate? I know your slides were the last one, so they probably remembered those, but any other key takeaways from you?
Just to sum up that I think this is a really interesting time, exciting time, actually. I think we've got the tools, the approaches, the experience, the references, and a huge commitment from a BMC standpoint to the telecoms vertical.
Okay, and then obviously, Kapil, from a product management perspective, I know we work very closely together, but the features were of interest, and one of our polling questions, was there anything specifically you want to highlight?
Basically, I just want to ask everyone. So we kind of gave a very quick overview of what we are including as part of telco extensions. What we want to do next is do a detailed demo of those features, right? So if anyone is interested in participating in a detailed demo, please just express your interest as part of the chat, whichever is the right way to do that, Sam. Maybe just keep your name and we'll definitely invite you when we schedule the demo. We're going to make sure everyone is aware to see what we have supported today. And we'll also have a quick overview of the roadmap, what we have planned, at least for the next 12 months, what we expect to support as part of the telco offering. So if you're really interested in the demo, please add a note in the chat and we can track that.
Absolutely. And we will be sharing out the content today. Often I get asked, will we be able to get access to the content? This was really the start. We've all talked as a team about having this as a series. We will be starting to plan to do more. We were just realizing there was too much content in one session. I think we probably would have needed 2 or 3 hours. So mindful of people's time, this is really the introduction to telco. We obviously are aware it does integrate with other products as well. So when you get your thank you email out, which will hopefully be in the next 24 hours, if you have any other suggestions of topics and you haven't filled in the poll, please fill in the survey that will come through, and it will take you less than 5 minutes to fill it in, and I will share it with the wider team. And obviously we're really interested to hear what else you'd like to see. We will close the webinar and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.